Hey guys, it's Dusky Arts, and today I want to talk a little bit about queer coding in media and what that means today versus what it meant in the past, and a little bit about the problematicness of it. I want to be fully transparent. In the background, I have the Hive soundtrack playing from the original Deus Ex: The Human Revolution. For full transparency, no copyright infringement is intended. I just wanted a little bit of background, and if this is problematic to anyone, please contact me and let me know, and I will edit this video. So there's a number of characters that we can look at and we can say are queer-coded. This isn't news to anybody. Disney villains, for example, are often classic examples of queer-coded characters. Characters who behave in a manner that you would identify as being queer in some way, violating the social norms to follow their own path. And due to the Hayes Act, which was an act of Congress that tried to whitewash media, stating that American family values were to be present in any media, especially media that was present for children, companies had to queer code, basically. The open secret in Hollywood for the longest time was that a lot of queerness was celebrated. It was allowed, it was accepted, it was celebrated. It may not have exactly been spoken out loud, but when the Hayes Act came in, it made it impossible for studios to do anything with that. So they went underground. They started queer coding their characters as an aside to the audience that was in the know, while still not violating the rules and regulations set out for them. It was hideous. It was a violation of free speech and free expression. The arts have always been on the side of acceptance, open-mindedness, and frankly, queerness. So historically, there were reasons that creators had to pussyfoot around the subject of the gay. But today, the Hayes Act is not a thing anymore. So I want to talk a little bit about the lingering Hayes Act elements, let's call them, in certain characters. So let's break down first. We'll start with the big one, Disney. We all know that Disney is very, very whitewashed. They're super, super careful. And what's unfortunate is that they're so careful of certain things, but not careful of other things. They're perfectly okay with there being subtextual messages in their media that could lead to very negative outcomes and negative thought processes developing in children. Things like Stockholm Syndrome, fascism, appear regularly in their films. Choices to shoehorn characters away from an obvious moral choice and into whatever they want them to fit the narrative that they have shoehorned and crafted is rampant, especially in modern Disney films. But when it comes to the question of alt-gender, alt-sexuality, well, Disney made us some promises a number of times, over and over again. First, they said there was going to be a gay couple in Star Wars. Well, we know that didn't happen. Poe and Finn showed a little bit of excitement upon first meeting each other, and there were a couple of sparks if you were really paying attention, if your mind was open to see it, and then nothing. In fact, in the final movie of the prequel or the sequels, we found out that Poe had a ex-girlfriend. It was this Zori Bliss character who, by the way, I'm never going to get over the fact that that was supposed to be Mara Jade. Then they put a helmet on Kerry Russell, who has a beautiful screen-worthy face, and they decided to helmet her the whole movie, and said, "Oh no, this isn't Mara. This is bargain bin knockoff Mara." What the hell? But that's my own little pet peeve because I'm a fan of the character. But Poe was supposed to have been a gay character, and he wasn't. Finn was supposed to be a gay character, and he wasn't. Now, I think Poe might have been more on the bi side, that they could have done that, and, still had Poe and Finn have a relationship, even though he had a past with Zori Bliss. But they didn't. They just completely ditched that. Kathleen Kennedy sort of conveniently forgot the promise she made to us, which isn't a little deal. It's a big deal. The reason it's a big deal is because what it would have said is that you're welcome to be part of these fantasies too. This isn't just straight cis male coded anymore. Women are welcome to be part of this fantasy. Queer people are welcome to be part of this fantasy. Black people are welcome to be part of this fantasy. You don't have to go find your own shit anymore. Well, we're going to dominate the industry. Us white cis male people are going to dominate the industry. And they dropped the ball on that. They dropped the ball on that for no good reason either. They got scared, and that was it. They got scared because, oh no, Disney will never, ever, ever use its power and influence to do the right thing. The thing is, Disney has so much power and influence that if they came out and they said it, they said, hey, we're supporting this, they would not get nearly as much backlash as they think they would. People would fall in line relatively quickly with that because Disney has a lot of political power. And as a matter of fact, it's their messaging that is responsible for the way things are right now. In grand part, it's that whitewashed messaging that we're delivering to kids that then turns those kids into whitewashed adults. And we have lots of studies and lots of information on that. I'm not just pulling that out of my ass. As a teacher, I've studied those. For the sake of brevity, I'm not going to cite anything. You can look that up yourself, but it exists. It does. So, moving on, let's go to Japan. So, Japan has yaoi, and you might think that yaoi is queer-coded, but it's not. Yaoi is for Japanese women primarily. And what it does is it puts male characters in traditionally male-female roles so that these women can feel disconnected from these emotions of yearning and romantic attraction, and yet experience those feelings at the same time through a character that does not represent their context entirely, so they have that compartmentability. It's a very different way of viewing things because of the compartmentalization that Japanese people often use in their daily lives just to get through. They're very overworked, and they don't have a lot of personal time, free time, and people over there have a very hard time getting together. That is why there's a fertility crisis, because the time you have to yourself is absolutely precious over there, and it's at a premium. So these manga and, of course, anime come forward with these relationships that allow people to get invested in those characters' relationships rather than feeling that yearning for yourself. You can displace those feelings onto those characters. So yaoi is not really paying homage or honor to the actual experience of being gay, especially not the experience of being gay in Japan. But, yaoi is what it is, and gay people are certainly welcome to partake in it. It definitely does have themes that you can identify with as a queer person, and hey, take it where you can get it, right? Because we're not represented in media very well at all, so at least we're seeing representation there. But let's talk specifically about something a little bit more Japanese and furry. Let's talk about Beastars. So, almost all of the characters in Beastars are gay. Hands down, they're gay. They're not just gay coded, they're openly, actively gay, except that they never admit it. Not once does the creator ever acknowledge that the very homoerotic and homoromantic scenes are homoerotic and homoromantic. Never do they acknowledge the sexual attraction, the physical attraction, and the emotional attraction that these characters show to each other. It is Legoshi and Lewis. It is Lewis and Ibuki. God, that Lewis and Ibuki arc killed me. Just killed me. I was bawling when Ibuki died. And that was because, oh my God, that was his second chance. That was the lover who picked him up off the ground and made him into something, and now he's dead. And he died for him. And I was all over the place with that. But the saddest part to me was that it would never be acknowledged. It would never be acknowledged as what it obviously was. Then, of course, he finds his way back to Legoshi, and he makes this ultimate sacrifice. And the end of the first season was just problematic and weird with Legoshi. Spoiler alert. So click off the video if you don't want to hear this. But Legoshi eats Lewis's leg to gain the power to turn into a werewolf, basically. And Lewis offers this, without any anesthesia or anything. He just offers it. And so that's a little over the top for me, but that's very in line with like Japanese fiction of the sacrifice. But Lewis's sacrifice was very, even though it was such a weird scene, there was a very sexual element to it. Yet the author won't admit to that. In fact, the author has openly said that, oh, my characters aren't gay. Bitch, yes, they are. Yeah, every single one of them is. The female characters, Haru and Juno, those could be considered more easily to be the straight the straight anchors of the show. Oh, look, these characters exist and the men technically want them. So, no, they're not gay. Actually, yeah, they also present a lot of queer coding, especially Juno, the rabbit. She is exceptionally sexually independent, and you very much get that she is also put up as this icon of a woman who does not match the typical woman in that school or in that society. She very much stands against the grain, and so she represents queerness in her own way. And yet the writer, I think the writer of Beastars very well might be somebody who's very repressed and very scared of presenting. And this is her outlet. She wrote these characters as an outlet to that deep-seated repression that she probably can't even admit to herself. It's rampant in her writing. It shows. You can see who a person really is through the things that they write, especially if they're passion projects like that. So, we have a problem there with why can't we just say it? Why can't we just say it? Let's go over to the States now. Let's go to Marvel Comics. Let's go to the X-Men. I grew up with the X-Men. I love the X-Men. Straight up, my very favorite character of all time is Rogue. I fucking love Rogue. But this isn't about that. In the mid-2000s, Beast he goes through a secondary mutation, turning him into a somewhat animalistic character. Some artists drew him more as a feline, some artists drew him more as a wolf dog, but he had a very animalistic transformation. And with this animalistic transformation came an arc where he finally kicked Trish Tilby, the news reporter that he had had a volatile on-again, off-again relationship with, to the curb, because frankly, she abused him. She treated him as if he was her ticket to stardom because he was a mutant. And eventually he finally got tired of that and kicked her to the curb. Came out as gay. And it was this beautiful comic where he's actually in the X-Jet flying with Scott. I think they're headed away from a mission or towards a mission. I can't remember what. But they have this conversation about the problematic nature of Scott starting a relationship with Emma Frost right after Jean dies. And it's a very frank, honest conversation between friends. And then it turns to what Beast said. And, Beast tells him that he is in fact gay. And Scott tells him he's proud of him and that he'll support him in whatever he needs. I think it was like 3 issues later. I could be wrong. Could have been longer. It feels like it was only 3 issues later. He comes out and he says, "Oh, I just said that because I wanted to hurt Trish. I'm not really gay." What the hell is that, Marvel? I haven't forgotten that. Now, a lot of people will say, "Oh, Beast isn't gay." What amazes me is when I've heard from other gay people that get mad that Beast had turned gay during that time. And I'm like, guy, my dude, he had all the coding for it. Throughout his entire scripting, he had coding for it. He was the intelligent, aloof character that upheld everybody else, took care of everybody else's needs, and didn't seem to have any sort of permanent relationship with a woman. In fact, when he did, they didn't work out. He was very, very much gay coded. And so for him to come out as an icon of the gay and queer identity in the main X-Men roster would have been exceptional. And Marvel realized, we got to have some representation for us because it's X-Men. We got to have some representation for queer because it's X-Men, and X-Men is all about representation for the unrepresented. So they resurrect one of the stupidest characters, North Star. North Star was basically Marvel's answer to the Wonder Twins in the past. He and his sister had these powers that would activate when they held hands. It was really fucking weird. And they resurrect him and they say, "Hey, he's Canadian and he's gay. We're going to stick him in the X-Men and make a big deal about his wedding to not another mutant, but a normie." Cool. I mean, that's a beautiful story in isolation, but North Star was stupid. So you took a stupid, unlikable character who was a victim, who was a complete product of the decency in comic books era, which is the comic book equivalent of the Hayes Act, and shoehorned him in instead of giving us just one of your multiple characters in your main roster. We asked for one. And not only did you do that, but you reneged. You gave us one and then you took it back immediately. Fuck you, Marvel. And, I do better, frankly. And we've got this whole universe now of Marvel movies. Not one queer character, not one, has ever been focused on, ever. So now let's slide back over to Disney, modern Disney. How many times have we been told by modern Disney that we're going to have the first openly gay character? Doesn't happen. So let's highlight Beauty and the Beast. They hire a openly gay actor to play a major character. Unfortunately, it's LaFoe, who is kind of the laughingstock of the movie. But I held out hope. I went to the movie for 2 reasons. 1, there is a scene in the trailers that shows Beast pecs, and goddamn, it's hot. 2, I expected to see LaFoe treated with a little more respect, and for him to have an arc that showed him as an actual gay person. Nope, doesn't happen. Instead, what they do is they make fun of him in secret. It's a little in-joke for the adults in the room who are listening. And at the very end of the movie, there's a fight scene, and one of the side non-characters gets beat up by the wardrobe and suddenly put into women's clothes, and suddenly realizes, oh, he kind of likes it. And then at the very end of the movie, we see him again dressing in women's clothes and asks LaFoe to dance. And LaFoe's response is just to shrug and go, "Oh, well," which is not the same as saying he's attracted to the guy or he wants a relationship. It's just go with the flow, tip for tap, That's not admitting he's gay. That's just him being okay with dancing with somebody who figured out he was. And he didn't even really figure out he was gay. He figured out he liked wearing women's clothes, which are two different things. We have very straight men who do drag sometimes. So it's so out of touch. It's not even them not providing these kinds of characters. That would be one thing. It's them making the obvious mistakes that we all know you don't make in this society. We're more educated in this world than this. It has come out that some of these stereotypes and things are things you just don't do or say. And they go ahead and do it anyway. And there is no way that you can tell me that these corporate execs who have market researchers whose job it is to put their finger on the pulse of what society is doing do not tell them, hey, this is problematic. Pay attention. They know, and they know better. So what's my ultimate point here? Do I think that my video will garner any sort of attention and that anybody will listen to me? No, I get 3 views a video if I'm lucky. But I want to shout out to the ether about my frustration, I guess, because I think that if someone like myself had been able to look at characters on the screen and say, hey, that's me. Hey, I identify with that. Then my outcomes would have been better. I would have felt much more confident much sooner in my life. And that confidence, what would I have been able to do if I was that confident at 25? What would I have been able to do if I was confident at 16, if I saw myself represented and knew that I was okay? Instead, it took me until I was in my late 30s, early 40s to figure out that who I am is a valid choice. It's okay. It is not something that doesn't exist, and it isn't something that is just a me problem. I remember, I was so far in the closet because I was a child who dealt with a lot of emotional abuse. And so when I was a kid, I didn't even acknowledge gay. I was very supportive of my gay friends, but I was like, oh, that's not me. Oh, that's not me. And then secretly, in the shower, in my most private times, I would have my little thoughts, and then I would comfort myself and tell myself, this is a phase. I'll get over it. This is a phase. And I did that until I was like in my early to mid 20s when I realized, you know what? I'm really not attracted to girls. You know what? I really do feel like a woman at times. You know what? There is something different about me. And then it was a slow going. I first came out as bi, and then I came out as gay. And then a friend of mine mentioned gender fluidity, and I started to think about it, and eventually I came out as gender fluid. And then I had to scratch and peck to find terminology that would fit me. And it wasn't until I was married to my husband that someone had mentioned, oh, if I'm gender fluid, I'm on the trans spectrum. And a light bulb clicked. Oh my God, I'm trans. Holy shit. I wish I'd known this 20 years ago. I mean, I was just thinking I was weird, and it was a weirdness that I had to decide, how much do I want to display all the time? Now I'm on full display because I can just say, this is who I am. I've got an identity. Language is power. And the problem with our current media is that the media is punished for giving us language to own our own place. And that's the problem. We've created a perfect system where rules and expectations control artistic expression, who is terrified of upsetting certain aspects of those expectations. And so they feed each other in a feedback loop, and what you get back is the equivalent of AI slop, even if no AI is used in it. It's bargain bin, bullshit, copy pasta, morals and values that do not fit and do not help our society. They actually create thinkers who have no ability to actually think critically. And that's the point. So when you are looking at media, keep your eyes open, analyze it, think about it. And if you are in a position to do so, start making demands. Start asking for what we need. Cheers.